Hello, boys and girls. I think we're live. I think everything's working. Let's see. I just wanted to mostly do this because of what's in the description. I've kind of gone over a timeline starting with Ron Garret versus Standing for Truth on Modern Day Debate on Tuesday. And then there were two after shows, one by oh, hang on a second. There were two after shows by Gutsick Gibbon and one by Beta Wolf. And there are some very, very interesting parts of those that everyone should look at and think about. And then there was the, yesterday, Creation Myths did a video called ENCODE, Disproved Junk DNA, Creation Myths. And then in the middle of the night, inexplicably, 2 a.m., I was up. Standing for Truth decided to do a creationist weather report. And he basically doubling down with Raw Matt about how he has never been debunked, and Dr. Dan doesn't actually have any arguments, and I don't have any arguments, and we keep giving him arguments. It's pretty incredible. Before we get to that, I want to say something about Nicholas Whitmire, proclaimer of the Messiah. He had John on an after show, and John went all sexist again. You know, this bullshit, his beta male bullshit. And I want to give Nicholas credit because he stopped him and he said, not on my channel. It's not Smokey's channel. We're not going to do that here. And he cut it back. And Nicholas seems to be one of those Christians that actually, I've never got a lot of venom from him. I've gotten some challenges, but he seems to actually walk that path, which I really appreciate in somebody. So even though Nicholas, I just, oh man, when you talk about genetics, you really hurt my brain, but you're a good man. At least you're trying to keep it reined in, or some of these other assholes, they just do not get it. So, and I found out that what happened on August 13th to YouTube notifications, I used to get YouTube email notifications that allowed me to put all the links up for you. Well, Google, in their fucking infinite wisdom, decided to quit doing that because they noticed that not enough people were opening them and people were complaining. Well, they could have allowed you to just opt out of it and kept the feature, but Google likes to cut things. So I'm trying to figure out how to use some other form of notification to do that. And let's see. Okay. So on the timeline, there was the creation myth things, ENCODE, Disproved Junk DNA. This whole ENCODE junk DNA thing, you really need to listen to Dr. Dan, Standing for Truth, and et al., the Brain Trust. They're just not getting this whole what DNA is and how it actually works, and they don't get how evolution works, and yet they insist that we don't debunk them. Well, the reason we don't debunk you is because you're not listening in the way you need to listen in order to understand the subject matter, you know? And this is really evident. If you look at this after show, Standing for Truth versus Ron Garret on Beta Wolf's channel, Beta Boy, John Cahones, where CRISPR-Cas9 comes in and totally destroys Standing for Truth, then sticks around, totally destroys Maddox and whoever else he had on. And the really interesting thing about that is there's a meta narrative here. There is something going on that separates our worldviews so drastically that we're using the same words, but we're not speaking the same language. So we have two languages that consist of the same words. And this is incredible. It's really interesting to hear how Maddox totally missed CRISPR's points. I loved when Maddox brought up, he said, what matrix are you using? Because he watched some video and he apparently heard about substitution matrices or matrices. And that's basically how you find alignments or homologies in DNA. and it has nothing to do with the phylogenetic analysis that comes later. And the whole time John was saying things, and CRISPR was like, what is this fucking guy talking about? But he is so polite about it, and he was so consistent. And CRISPR is so good at explaining, what was going on. We are going to go over that video. I'm hoping today. And again, I'm making a promise, and I can never get the team together. We're also, we're all running in different directions, but really are going to try to go over that today because there's very interesting things in there where they were trying to run up and down the abiogenesis to eukaryotic cells to modern humans. They were running back and forth across the football field with the goalpost. And CRISPR was trying to explain to them that first of all, before you do calculus, you got to do 1 + 1 = 2. You got to figure that part out. And they mistook John and the whole group inverted it, and they thought that 1 + 1 = 2 must be abiogenesis. And CRISPR was saying no, human evolution is the simple part, right? We'll talk about that phylogeny, and he represented that as 1 + 1 = 2. But the guys didn't even get the metaphor. I mean, they obviously were not listening to CRISPR at all. But we were listening, and we can go over that in some detail and show you how badly these people think, how seriously they have their worldview shoved up their butts to the point where it's actually touching their brains. I mean, when you shove something up your butt, normally it doesn't touch your brain, but they figured out how to do that. So very, very interesting. And that is all in my links and my description, and that is the way to do this. The other thing that Standing did last night is him and Raw Matt were doubling down on this. You read the papers, and they have the rescue devices, and the evolutionists write the papers, and we interpret the evidence differently. Well, if you know anything about genetics, if you actually knew the subject matter, you'd realize how stupid that is. Granted, there is some, hypothetical interpretation of evidence, but for the most part, all the papers pretty much are working on the same theory, and you guys are working on something you pulled out of your asses, and you're not getting it. You just don't get it. You see rebuttal after rebuttal, and like you're coming down on Dr. Dan, who is a real professional, who really knows what he's talking about, and CRISPR and all these others. You're presented with evidence from people that really work in the field, from experts, and you just totally are not listening to what they are saying because you don't have the background, the scientific background, or the textual background in this subject matter to even listen. That is your problem. That's why you don't think we're offering rebuttals, So, hi, Brainbug. I think my only listener. Is this all working okay? Anyway, so last night also at 2 a.m., I realized I was blocked on Standing for Truth's channel, and I thought, you fucking weasel. You weasel. You blocked me again. It wasn't Standing for Truth. Let me see if I can play this one. Hopefully this will play. And then we find out the truth of the matter. Oh my goodness. Where is it? Let's see. Nope, that's not me. I'm not entirely sure where I'm at. Hold on a second. I gotta find that. I have so many tabs open right now. I am so sorry. Apologize. There's the weasel. And I totally lost the video that I was going to show. Here we go. Weather report. Okay.
It is. I saw the super chat from George Bond, and then Speed.
Yeah, I think it was from Ian Chen. He sent a super chat asking them to unblock me.
Sound goes, why was I blocked? I blocked you, not Standing of Truth, and I blocked you because you had the audacity to ask him for a free book after you already gave him a 1 star on the last book online that you hadn't even read yet. So when you act like a bitch, you're off the channel for good.
Well, isn't that funny that he puts a 1 star on a book he hasn't read, and it.
Yeah, the book, you can read the book in a half an hour, dude. I read the book. It was really painful to read. And yeah, I give you a 1-star review on Amazon because I couldn't figure out how to do 0 stars, which is a real problem on Amazon. You should be able to do 0 and negative stars. I would give you that. But here's the fucking thing. In chat, I asked you for a PDF update of your book because you released a book. And I bought that book in the black and white version. I bought the color version. I bought the Kindle version. I bought all of Raw Matt's books. I bought all your other damn books. I've given you hundreds of dollars. 2 weeks later, you add 30 pages to the goddamn book, and I ask you for a PDF update. I think you owe me that much at least. For God's sake, send me the PDF of the updated book. That's all I'm asking. I'm not going to go buy it again. And I'm gonna ask Amazon about this. I mean, Jesus. Normally you get a first edition of a book, and it's good for 1 or 2 years before you end up with another edition. I mean, what in the hell? 2 weeks and you do an update and you expect me to pay you again another $30 for the goddamn book? Of course, you're only getting 25 cents. So, I mean, it's no skin off your butt, Standing for Truth. You promised that you were going to dig up the PDF and send it to me, like a week ago, and I still haven't seen it. And I bet you haven't sent those papers to Ron Garret that you promised during the debate either. I'm going to ask him today. Hanging out with him in a little while on a thing we have. Anyway, let's see. So brain bug. You can give a 1 star if you're expecting a book and you get a pamphlet. Yeah, right. I got a pamphlet. They are pamphlets. The print is so big that you can read it from across the room. And all he has for paper references is pictures of the top of the paper. So you have to sit there, read the picture, type it in. I mean, even the PDF version, I couldn't find any text. So I could put it into Google and pull up the paper. All you got to do, damn it, like I do, provide a link. On my channel, we provide links for everything that we talk about. And sometimes we might miss one. And if you comment, we will go dig it up and we will get it to you. We are not going to hide our source material on this channel. We'll give you links to videos. We'll give you links to papers. But God, the creationists love to hide that source material. Why is that? They say, oh, you can just type it in and look it up. Bullshit. That takes hours. Especially during the debate, I couldn't believe how fast Standing was flashing papers and scrolling up and down so that you couldn't read anything. So you have to freeze frame every second. I mean, my goodness. Okay, interpret data differently. They need to give a disclaimer that their interpretations conflict with the findings of the paper. That would be good. They don't actually read any of these papers. I know it. There's a new one on the functionality of DNA that just came out. That is worth a look. It is called Mutational Load, and now, of course, I have to put this in my damn description. Mutational Load and the Functional Fraction of the Human Genome from 2020 by Galeota Sprung, which is pretty interesting. Highly mathematical. They make no conclusions about the functionality of the DNA, but they kind of point out that, and Dr. Dan points this out too, that even if the 80% or 90% of the genome is functional, it doesn't mean that evolution is false. It's not a problem for evolution. It would just be like, holy shit, why is all that junk in there? We can withstand mutational load because what would happen is that the mutational rate would be drastically decreased by purifying selection. So it doesn't matter. And Dr. Dan kind of points that out, but they're going to miss this whole thing. The other thing is their idea that DNA is 100% functional it contradicts Sanford's genetic entropy. Because if that were the case, if the DNA was 100% functional, you were born with it, and your cells started to divide about 100 times, or 50 times into your tissue types, you would die before you were a couple months old. because you couldn't withstand that amount of mutation, according to Sanford et al. So, I mean, there's a contradiction here. But when you look at functionality in DNA, it is a very, very complex field. Like, for instance, exons, have the protein coding part, and introns are kind of in between. Well, in an intron, there's one little part it's like a hinge that allows the DNA to kind of loop back and allows splicing. And there's another part that is a signal sequence. And that is a very small part of the intron. Well, introns can get really big and bloated with retrotransposons or transposons. And there's a lot of junk in the introns. There's a lot of things that are not conserved that don't make a difference. But like I say, it is a very, very confusing subject for laymen, and something that somehow somebody is going to have to explain well, so that we can push back on these creationist nutcakes and all of their unfounded claims about junk DNA and functional DNA, all that. Let's see, what else do I got going? Yeah, anyway, watch that Nathan part. I think it's listed as CRISPR-Cas9 in my description, and I will put this other paper up for you in the description when I'm done. So, and Standing for Truth, thank you for doing a weather report and calling out my weather reports. But I am very hot. Our air conditioner is still broken until tomorrow. Tomorrow it will be cool again in the world, and things will get better. But I just wanted to get this out today and put those links in my description. And note Ramat the Weasel. Ramat's the Weasel, Standing for Truth is not. Okay, Standing for Truth is like a gopher. But Ramat, Weasel. I mean, wow. He really got triggered, apparently. Anyway, see you guys later today. Later today. We're going to do something later today, I promise.